that in the that paper samrolia somji
First of all, I would like to wish good morning to all of you who have come here today.
Pour commencer, je souhaite vous dire tous bonjour à vous tous qui êtes venus ici.
메시다 가장 좋아지게 망부를 치지. 아니 지 곰갸고데 중매자 곰갸디 시야디 이 중민도 제장 다마시드린 지당기 시야 주지디 energy compassion mase compassion happiness suda 이내 다지 니지다 energy happiness 드베토라 디지 share 소든 좀 심다
Now yesterday, because we had so much question and answer, we didn't have the time to cover the topic of meditation. And this morning our topic is compassion, compassion and happiness.
다들이야. 나도 못 들려. 곰자 어디 거들이야. 도들이 쉬고만 넣었음 정도. 다들이야. 다 곰데 지당기다 가져야 돼. 티사 뒤질이야. 바지베는 구글 뒤질 나라리야. 부디즘 સમરવતા તે છેને데 티기 책 민스 છે네데 this 뉴로데 요르시 다이네 메디테이션 사르보다 마인드풀니스 사르 디즈기 책 디즈 책이야 도나시니 전개네 마르주요 근데 기자 용디 다 디즈 용디 알았어
In any case, this morning I thought I would begin by speaking a bit about meditation. And we talk about meditation these days in Google. In terms of the Google searches, there have been fewer searches on Google for Buddhism, for the term Buddhism. But searches on the terms meditation and mindfulness have increased.
안에다 곰갸드 godye bena anani Google da Facebook da 디딜이야 침벌해 고조 나래 지 곰갸 미세 곰갸 서버들이 쇠제 근데 여브레샤 안 데마입니다 지다 곰 도난치에 다지 마루마루 줘도 이거지 제 돈디 어래 다 초지네 디 가르쳐야다对呢 초지네 안다고 저 곰데人心都是被가르쳐야 contemporary 스마르다지 참여기 로저샤로 차요 뉴스안에 에너지 베나 마음발이야 아니 요가는 시찬 그런 traditional values 스마르 다디 kaligala 안 kuran 지금 총재에서 차지 근데 차다 년가 로지 바지 예배서 지듯이
Now, in terms of meditating, also, last year I did visit the Google and Facebook campuses, and in those places they actually have particular rooms or spaces set aside for meditation. So we can see that interest in meditation is increasing. But when we look at it from one perspective, when they teach the meditation, they teach a very contemporary meditation that everyone can study. But you wonder if in the future the same thing is going to happen to meditation as has happened to to yoga, where it loses all of the traditional values and becomes a business. I think that there's a danger this will happen.
다들 뉴스하네. 그러려 다다 그지. 안다 곰갸데 고디 미나 가수라다 지. 도나. 곰리아 남게 지 지단데 곰리에 야다만 좀 쉬쉬한데 알아디 이메나 다들 상황을 주 dom지 쉬비나 에너지 신의 실하니로시 나나 대한 던 실하니 세나다 제금 조금 니스르지 바지 용대면로 섬르지 쉬용도 되는 지 조는 공부다 엄제는 공부를 너무니 용대로지.
Now, in terms of the topic of meditation itself, basically there are many different types of meditation. But if we want to sort of summarize them, there are really two types, and you can call these either shamatha and insight meditation, or you can say that it is analytic and placement or resting meditation. So there's meditation where you rest and meditation where you analyze and meditate.
남기 지당 제비나 어느 시내다 조금 대다 튼직 소리지 라동도 제금 튼직 소리지 다 지당 제비는 들려지 다 카시에 들려 숨고 알아요 다 이내야 다디지 숨수면 좀 우용돼 알아 다지 아지 추기 소소스기 변의 회기 남배 추기 소소스 대전这些 나면라로 시원디 알아 은 참참지야 라동len 조금 라버도지 상아급 딘데급이야 라동len 조금 딘데 용디 요자 다이네 지용 기차는 제비입니다 어느 시내단 조금 된지스 라동도 조금 된지스 지바지 람나 마테바메 소치 되지 온디도
Now, generally speaking, shamatha meditation and resting meditation are synonymous, and analytic meditation and insight meditation are synonymous. And though we say that, however, there are many different explanations of meditation in the different traditions of Tibet. Many different masters from different traditions have different manners of explaining this. And so there are contexts in which it is said that there are types of insight meditation that are also resting meditation, particularly in the context of the secret mantra Vajrayana. So in the secret mantra Vajrayana, there are insight meditations that are also resting meditation. But speaking in generally, I don't think that there's any difficulty to say that in general terms that shamatha meditation and resting meditation are synonymous, and analytic meditation and insight meditation are synonymous.
다 오늘 다 디나네 가출에 실하니부디 다 균제 소르시 근데 신행원 마소나 라동 균게야 돼 가고 인상 디균전 때에다 신행이 곰데 년 원도 조고야지 자대요래
Now, shamatha and insight meditation are like cause and result. you first have to develop the shamatha meditation. If you do not first develop the shamatha meditation, it is difficult to develop the insight meditation. And so for that reason, we generally say that the shamatha meditation must precede the insight.
안다지 신의 사르다 조디 아르르다지 셈 아르르다지 미비질이야 직셈 셈 니바 차장으로디 이제 미비질이야 주버차로지 다 미비질이 돼도 저 직내 이제 셈 별로차로지 템버차 나는 미비질이야 지금 가서라도 스탠드 니바 차상으로 지도 봉토야 미버自己도 돼야 진짜 심해.
So when we say shamatha meditation, shamatha or calm abiding meditation, what this means is that we're able to bring all of the capacities of our mind to bear upon a single focus. In other words, to rest our mind one-pointedly on a single focus. So one aspect of this is that our minds are able to be loose and relaxed and stable. Another aspect is that we are able to bring all of our mental capacities to bear upon a single focus.
다 traditionally 토네지 가르지 수경 토네시아비나 신의 검두사네 신의 검사 지당 내 왼바로지 뉴즈시라메 돼봐. 지지 내 왼바. 나는 신기 지 된데 다 진짜면 매돼. 스마르바다지 타나 킥 자르고 된데 예비 이미냐. 안 된데야 뇌아로 된데 온데 유스래. 제가 된데 다지 삼den기 살마스마르바다지 된데 매돼봐. 된데 내려야 친제 안다지 다와 응주 진짜지ring이야 드베이나 드라이어지 진짜지 중요하다.
Now, traditionally or customarily, in the traditional manner of training in shamatha meditation, would be to go to some isolated, solitary place where there are no diversions, where there's not even any sound. Even if there's the sound of a dog barking, you wouldn't stay in that place. So you go to a place where there are none of what are called the thorns of meditation. So you'd go to such a place and you'd practice meditation for 5 or 6 months.
다 된데지기 다이네 tinsan tu줄이야. 안 된데지기 와데 가고 싶지 않아요. 안 하바도 다 간다 tinsan tu줄배 같이 비네. 가져야다지. disruption 같이 비네. 다지 심리야지 이와차로 지다 안다지 진짜지 다 가져야 망부 쉽지에 인주산 다 디견전데네 아주 신의 주야사디 다지 챌린지를 다 대주줄배 깔아가버리 차려야지 이런데도.
But this is something that's extremely difficult to do these days because wherever you go these days, there are distractions. Our minds get distracted. We have so many worries and things that it's actually very challenging or very difficult for us to accomplish shamatha meditation.
단 너는 지금 심 치료기위라 매일 체제 안다지 나도 두야르지. 근데 주소스 컨트롤시하르지. 나도 두도르시고 알아. 다 이내 디사 지용화차 다 같이 미네지 스마트폰 사르다 지야 인터넷 사르다 다 간다 망고 싶지 않게 윈두사네. 다디 갈라 가버치게 알아 something.
So really what we need for shamatha meditation is we need to be able to not be distracted in our minds. We need to not have our minds be distracted by external objects. They need to be withdrawn inside. We need to turn our mind inside, withdraw it inside. And yet, wherever we go these days, we have smartphones. We have internet access. And because of this, I think that it is very difficult for us to develop shamatha meditation.
다 지단 체비는 다 가르쳐 미세 곰사 미세다 수수기 수수 가리임 버서마다 지 렁법수 수수다지 심기 다다 다대기 가르쳐 내다라고 가리임 디 토알야지 렁법 소주메 버치지 아니 냠버 샤투 임비나 안다 미세데 곰센다 수르도지 가르쳐 쥐만으로 채네 공과를 미세 매배수지 자리요. 제자 되네 감마버 군지 수버런 주도 지려야 하는 미지기 건지 쉬변 능시 차도로 가서 미지기 군지 수버런 주도 지려 건지 쉬네 너와지 오늘 최곰 감 먹어봐지 되지기 최지 여러에 쉬두산네 나티 여레스 곰잠 먹어봐 최지 여레스 다 이내야 아니 네 결혼을 곰자고 말했어 결혼을 진짜 냠내 지야 최지 결제비네 그야 지 곰지 야안도 민도로 따지 진짜게 쥐마 소주로지 정도로 채용 거래. 제가 뒤균세 되는 예 결혼 곰 잠먹어야 최대비냐. 결혼 팬하고 말했어. 수분은 신기. 딱 간다. 너는 지금 아주 담보 신의 검사들 흘려체. 샘 치료율 마당치 샘다 대지 가르래. awareness 수수익디 내단으로 가려요. 뒤털이야. 럼보샤르지. 뒤지 제데 이내야 안팅 아줄이야. 아주 쥐말이야. lokkomba 인두산. 다디 가부르 차대요. 섬점.
Generally, when we talk about like a particular meditation, really, actually, all we really need to do is just to let ourselves be as we are in our present situation, in our present way we are, without altering it or contriving it. If we can just rest evenly within that, then there's actually no need to do any other separate sort of meditation, any other artificial meditation. But actually, it's kind of like what happened once in a story with the third Karmapa Rangjung Dorje. There was a person who came to him and asked him, "Do you have some meditation you can teach me or some practice you teach me where I don't have to meditate?" And Rangjung Dorje replied, "Well, yes, I do. But if I taught you this meditation, you wouldn't be sure, and so you'd go and you'd practice and you'd meditate upon it. You'd see whether or not it actually worked or not, and so you'd then actually do it in artificial, and you'd do it in a contrived way. So even if I gave you a meditation or a dharma where you did not need to meditate, it wouldn't benefit you, so I'm not going to give it to you." So basically, with our shamatha meditation, it's like that. We just need to be relaxed and rest without our mind going out towards external objects, but be able to rest in our awareness as it is now, letting it be. But we have such strong habituation to altering things and doing artificial things that this is difficult for us.
제가 다들인데 다 곰디 가라사람 샤 곰디 안에 다 가라사라 곰 먹으베 다 곰 먹으베 곰데다 지 이제 가르라다 곰 먹으베 곰 습셰 다 대량다 조디 다 변하지 않아 줄이야 남도를 샤비미나 변하지 녀모비 남도를 집에 변控制 애들이 충분히미나 다 控制 랑조 집에 거래야 다 거지 세미나로 내야지 가르다지 콘조 베 차자마 나오체 콘조 란조 체베클이야 아니 간다슬라우다 공과지레샤 마도 콘조 란차베 제레 공야 칼하파.
So the meditation that I'm going to speak with you about this morning is a meditation where you don't need to meditate. Now, primarily when you have any thought that arises, like for example, if one of the afflictions arises, when anger or some other thought happens, like for example with anger, when you are just about to get angry, you haven't yet gotten angry, when you're just about to get angry, that's when you need to do the meditation. When you've already gotten angry, then it's too late. It's difficult to meditate.
다디 냠뇽 고르 삼청도 냠뇽 매비나 안 파지지 베나 컨트롤 라 남도 샤마도 파지 다 컨트롤 남버 파지 가르주에디 튜냠소를 통한대야 파지 연구 있으래 다 냠뇽 예비나 코란 컨트롤 라들지 규림 좀 지어지 당보들의 딘데들의 종사하지 소소하게 지 하고토야로지 연구회사에 삼정도 당보들의 종 딘데비지 준비신도 간다지 규림도 찾아하는 소소 통토야로지 도시한테 알아.
But I think in order to do this, you actually have to have had some experience. If you don't have an experience, then what's going to seem to you, it's going to seem to you that as soon as you have the thought of anger, then you get angry. It seems like these two are simultaneous. But I think that if you have some experience, you'll see that there is a sequence to how you get angry. You'll see that first this happens, then this happens, and then you'll see that you'll understand the sequence in which you get angry. So you need to be able to see that first that this will happen and that will happen. You'll need to be able to see the sequence of how anger occurs.
남도 샤용도스다 남도 디디 남도 들이야 따치 따따주사네 남도 들 따네 미세 따네야 녀과로 이렇게 미세 매베 수세 남도 들 때네 아직 아주 따스도야 딱제 제베 데데베 간전도 남도세 간전도 간전민도 제제 딱제 해야 돼 말해 딱 한들 남도 디기 앙래야 남도 디 샤용도산 텔레야 바 가르쳐 셈디 엔 디간르베 뢰줄려 르버디 디간바 대체 awareness to the tigala deshe sha tezum shire ma do be yang di ya namdo de kare do ji namdo de kane chung song kawa chin song an da na sing ge namdo ngo de kare do che da ji sha ji me bre kata de gos.
And so when a thought occurs, or when a thought arises, you need to look at the thought. And so you need to, when you look at it, you just rest within it. You look with it, and you just look at the thought. You don't need to examine the thought. You don't need to think, what is the thought like? Where does it come from? Or anything like that. Within the thought, when it arises, you just rest your mind and you direct your awareness towards the thought. That's all you need to do. You don't need to think, where does it come from? Where will it go? What is its essence like? There is no need to do any such examination in this context.
ben migde ju maso na ba dang che di gan jet gi de de ban ro chi ta kan da di kuran kan de che do ta de ma do be ya kuran ge ngo le ya je ne de che go ma de le ka shu le da chi ta de ya zam ro ma do ya de be zu che ta ji sam dong go ma ta de zam shi
So all you have to do is you just need to open your eyes of prajna. You just open your eyes and like look at it. You stare at it. And just look at it. There's no need to analyze what its essence is like or think about what it's like. You just all you need to do is look at it.
다 대제 제제 거르지 다요 뉴스안에 아니 그런 게 지가서 세당기 답을 콩루를 지나 다 뒤고 뉴버티스 총조에 그 뉴버티 또 남규는 신기 나 그런 무트이네 그런 게 지가서 콩루라야 슈슈몰라야 지 균디 지 그런 슈타버를 좋아하대 디스 총을 가져야 돼. 뉴버 총을 좋아하지. 제가
And so when you look at it like this, the hatred or the thought of anger loses some of its power. It's not able to continue or to perpetuate itself the way it normally does. And so the ability of that anger, the power of that anger to arise as it normally does, is decreased.
베나 부지기 부는 되게 준시연도 산에 그 준시연도면도 떡이 이제 밀리야 아주 밀리 떡어봐 밀리야 야고 다리도 산에 고지 참서 그런人心 我差的 직치도 다디 소리 제제 그런 녀몬들이야 그런 덴베 갑된으로 매비 인도산 녀몬 참으로야 그런 덴베 갑된 매비 인도산 and those started dusan and 그런 게 지가서人心 원으로 차체 주인으로 모두 시 모두 체체 는 원으로 차체 이게 대해서 시와차라 그렇지 다들이 용되게 알았어.
So it's like you have a child who's telling a lie. So when you have a child who's telling a lie and you look them in the eyes, then that child is going to get embarrassed and they're going to stop lying. And so it's the same way. You look at the afflictions, and because the afflictions don't have any basis in truth, because they have no basis in truth, when you look at them, then the afflictions get embarrassed and they kind of get tired of, or they get embarrassed about lying, and so they become a bit pacified.
다들 이제 네. 다 곰데 두두르지 다 아버지 가서 휴식면도 다 있는 두두르지 드르지 고쳐면도 삼청도 다 되네 드링 트래픽 드링 주지 뒤돌아 드라이.
And so that's a brief talk about meditation. I'm sorry I can't explain it too well, but that's just a brief discussion of meditation. And so now we will talk about today's topic.
다들이야. 대라야 안지 아주디 야르게 다 남베기 빈데 첨부 야세 시월라기 준주기 나로래야 다 지지와래 다디 된다 도도로 들어가잖아 지된 감기 동에 진이바 somaro da 동에 망부지에 되게 상물로 다조 란데 되발 되네 총으로 란지부 란코나 대원 되발 되네 총으로 지된 감기 대화 진이바 다 담지 상물로 아니지 셴 대원 되발 되네 총으로 해서 되지 용무이 그래.
In his Way of the Bodhisattva, the great Indian Pandita Shantideva spoke one verse, and the basic meaning of this verse is that all of the sufferings of the world came from wishing for benefit or came from selfish wishes, and all of the happiness in the world came from wishing others be happy.
nengaru de khasha de sana jidang ran suji ran dewan de ran khona dewan da ran dewan de ber chungore kimzen karre sana 다 조지 다 뎀브른짐비 딘진르지 요래 라지 보지 mana rangwa tsutu ruchi rang saji ji ngone jene rangwa ruchi xian la ma de ba ruchi ye sam ruchi de ji ye indu sane ane til dene ane ji dal din jin di ye indu san da jin ji sa de yo da khona je ben ji lo de yong go are da nan xin ge da je ben ji lo yong du sane che da kan sa xian le ya din jin yong go are de indu sane pe ngai 베라지 녜게 되네 가서다지 패밀리다 녜 족보다 된데서 디절 딘진쇼 디에들라다 진진 칼라칸점을 진진으로 연구하래 다는 신기 안다지 녜게 다 잘라서 잘라들줄 딘진으로 쇼체 수녜 루보다 는 녜게 강바다 녜 모르다 자르듯이 다가나 딘지르 쇼제 엔데들 제벤지버 노르지 용되기와라
And so the main thrust of this is that, in generally, we all want things for ourselves. We have selfish desires, and the reason for this is that we cling to ourselves as truly existing. We think that there's a me that's an autonomous, self-existing, autonomous me. And we think that that is in control and that it is independent of anyone else. So because we cling to this me as being truly existent, then we begin to cherish ourselves. So we have the attitude of self-cherishing. And because we cherish ourselves, then we also engage other objects, other phenomena, and other people as if they also truly existed. And we think this is my friend or my family. We think that they are truly existent and autonomous. And because of this, we also then begin to cherish them. Likewise, we also think this is my thing. And we cling to the things as truly existing. And because of that, then we cling to our houses, our cars, and our possessions as truly existing. And then we develop the attitude of cherishing those.
and guards Yinaya Ranchebran Zimbadi, the best on some dinzi, that the Mriziba, that Dici Tone, Yondi, Indusan, that day Nagasaur Chadi or Karesana, that the Mriziba Tusan, that the Gishavan and Shingi. Das are the one is a Rawan, but she shall term Madep, independent, Drivik sometime you be Indusana. That diggy sometime in Lusana, and the diggy, and the daji, Kashre, Puntre, that kind of Yotamang Bushi, soil waters.
Now, actually, you could say that there's really, actually, no real problem to cherishing yourselves. It's okay to cherish yourselves. There's nothing really wrong with that. It's actually kind of necessary. But because our cherishing of ourselves is based upon clinging to ourselves as being real, for that reason it becomes dangerous. And so when we cling to ourselves as being real, as I was saying before, it's that we think that there's a me, a real self that's independent, in control, independent of others. And if we think in that manner, then that is where we run into the danger of bringing ourselves ruin or of creating a lot of difficulties and problems for ourselves.
작 차와르 작게 가르다지 라와르 비스니시 정강기 소르치 차려야스 제가 소수다 등진기 정강디나로라 소다 추려야스 다들 소수 죽셔 던진 중간디나 수수 봐주 다 중간 알하비는 가르쳐서나 지 수수기 빈자로다 파만로다 빈자로다 다나지 정보로 가시지마도 신지 미신달 잡아 제쇼고 말아 딘데르 자서 안한주 내단데 되나시지 던진기 중간으로 디나바지 주셔도 안지 수수기 랑이다 다나시 수수 랑이다 다나시 파마다 정보로 가시지를 마다베기 안지 신다데들 오벤 제도야 매지 늘샤돼요.
So an analogy we often use for ego clinging is that it's like a prison with big iron bars. And it's like you've imprisoned yourself. You have imprisoned yourself in the jail of ego clinging. You're your own jailer. You've jailed yourself in the prison of ego clinging. And it's just like when you're in prison. If you're in prison, then only a few people can come and visit you. Maybe your siblings, your parents, a few friends can come, and no one else. People who are not related to you aren't allowed to come and visit you. And so our own situation is like that. We have jailed ourselves in the prison of ego clinging, and because we are jailed in this prison of ego clinging, other than just a few people who are close to ourselves, our parents or a few friends, a few people we are close to, we are not open to anyone else.
네 사네 아니 가르쳐다 단도실런 좀 두다 지 수수기 빌레버드 완스머로 수수 자와이에 되바 수수 자와이에 되바디 안치 베나지 베나 수수 종간나 추 안지 수수 자와이에 되베 가사디 에너지 수수다 타른 부 야른 부질이야 여비지 이내 텔 강연을 체체 베나 맹강소르지 딘디질이야 로과르지 베나 accident motor accident 차체 딘데 답에 자자기 맹강나로리야 로과르차 다이미네 수수 종간나로 취체 여기 인도산에 안지 수수 드라마토체 이내야다 치료를 예대비 수수 자와예 가사디 근데 수수 시부지 권고 예대 다 랑이 비게 그틸 요 과르지 근데 권고 시부지 예대 근데 내담 차대지 근데 다는 신기 되는 신기 아 주인비냥 다다지 답배 되는 신기 아 다다지 던진 정강되는 봐 주셔도 산 안지 치료를 아주지 뭐지 제외다 지 파마 내가 가서 제외 심제 되게 상황으로 안 치료들이야 배지 가서 가서 라는 데바메버 체체 안 타름 장타름 또 샤대야디 다디 오늘 전에 셈 지 삼담이미나 하장지 가서 이판베 내주 로판베 내주르지 이것도 이제 삼담제 단도나 딘데기 니지기 딱간다 가서 토안르지 니지기 누바 토안르지 케제 안 간다 수수 등진기 작차와디 돌과디 계속 차대야
So when you're in jail, then it's like you can't have as much of a connection with your loved ones and your relatives and your family. And if they have like a difficult situation, an emergency, if they have to go to a hospital in an emergency, then you're in the jail, and so you can't go and help and be with the loved ones you need to be with because you're stuck in jail. And so it's like you are unable, the situation is that you're unable to help those who are outside, your loved ones. And so in the same way, it's like that for us. We are also in the jail. We are in the prison. We have jailed ourselves in the prison of ego clinging, and outside of it, there are all of our parents. They're all sentient beings, and they're outside of the jail. But we're inside of the jail, and because we're stuck inside of the jail, then we're not connected to them. This is a situation that, if we begin to think about it, is actually can be a very depressing or a discouraging situation. And so what we really need to do is we need to take the hammer of compassion, the power of compassion, the hammer of compassion, and use this hammer of compassion to tear down the iron bars of our ego clinging.
That maji ganzami singor to nangbegi damevasa shigare. Damevasa di 치 코란 토는 바 사운다면 다 메스 비자다 nga 메스 아르주 고래 nga 메스를 비자는 미망부지기 때 동보 연구한다 다 메스를 연구사 안 제나베지 레균데 시가로 때 근데에서 다 내기지 망부지 어디 이나 남베시야 다 메스아디 nga 자와는 메버지기 시가 말에 다 메스아들다 구규를 싫어해야 되지. 다음에 비싼 다들 아주 쌈대하는 신기. 지 independent 되게 다죠. 요 말았어. 다들이 인도산은 낭백이 다디 다 춘춘섬을 다당기 아주 셰대. independent 되지 매버체제. interdependent 다. 다스는 게 도도지 뭐 비게지 추를 지금 매버체. 다사의 네트를 붙이지. 가서 인생 저거 차례. 다도 다디 수수 다디 뭐지 existing 되지. 자셔로 단지. 지 간다지 유니버스 상으로야 겹투야 알지. 근데 지금 저거 채투야. 근데기 나 다지. 아주 삼동아디. 남의 시대에 조를 되지. 이거죠. 또 통도. 안드레비 인두산 디균센데네. 아니지. 다다 신 사디 에너지 핀주지를 지대인 뭐 마다베 다사 런수도 주바지 예베체 신사 런수도 주바지 예데바 근데 뭐이 봐 핀주지를 지대 지를 지대 지기지를 잡아 차대야지 뭐 근데 지금 아주 잡아도 소토베이미나 아니 신의 직가를 아주 좀 심지어 함절이야 답변은 internet connection 나지 internet connection 이네 드립 채트야지 compassion 또한 internet somewhere 다 드립 connection 채트야지 버지 용어를 좀 정도
Now, as you all know, in Buddhism we discuss the selflessness, the lack of a self. When we say selflessness or that there's no self, sometimes we say there's no self, then it's like we might understand, oh, there's no me. And so people often have a doubt about this. And they say in Buddhism you talk about there being karmic cause and effect, but you say there's no self, so how can this be? There are many people who ask such questions. But I think when we say selflessness in Buddhism, we don't actually mean that that me does not exist at all. That's not what we mean. Instead, it's like there's a deeper way to understand this. What it really means is that the self does not exist the way we think it does. It is not true as we think it is not independent. And so when we talk about the self in Buddhism, then that's like we're saying it's not an independent self, we're saying it's interdependent self. There's no solid thing that is the self. Instead, the self is like a net that is connected to everything. So the existence of the self is like related to everything else and connected to everything else. And so that is the way that I see, that I understand the self to be explained in Buddhism. And so for that reason, when we say that, talk about self and others, then we're talking about things that are related to each other. They're interdependent, interrelated with each other. It's not like there is some me who can be some self-existing me, and that there's some self-existing others. It's not like that. There's everything is interdependent, interrelated, interconnected. And because if we can see that everything is interrelated and interconnected, then at that point we can see how we are interrelated with all the other sentient beings. It's like there's an internet with all the other sentient beings.
Internet narrow minded jorba.
Oh, okay.
Internet.
Okay, and so, excuse me, I missed something here. And so actually what happens is then our self becomes greater, it becomes connected and interrelated with everything else.
Okay. The universe someone kept to average. The share that energy in the net of compassion to an
Okay, and so in this way, the self becomes greater and can encompass the entire universe and can create links with everything, with everyone through compassion.
The internet na hotspot sa jomare. That these sort of social ya on a compassion which is near internet, the internet manda, internet sa jorba. The name is on it. The entire universe in the link of Cheche, and that chat at the case of then Donang yet a share there. That Randa Shen, Tong Malia, in Julia, Randa Shen said the Keva made. Donna Ran said Shengi Chasherich. Shen said the Ranga Chasherich. The Jin the Windows are Shengi Didu there, Rangi Didu Chasherich. Dana Rangi Didu the Shengi Didu Chasher Charlie. The name was on Tigus and Pinzu Gilia, Ginkurg Samras and Rando. Pizujilia, Simgurk Samurji, Yungure. Benangazu the Jig, Tolo Kandia Mambuchi, Benda, Soda, Benaji Zomling, Gig of Shindane, Ben the European, the Jig, the company Mambuchi, Tolo Society, Europe Sugaman, the Gig of Shindana Sugare. That is Tolo Sangain Tizu, Azu Tunu Yamata, Azu Pajitungumare, Benamizi, Shibuling Azuku. Washing mare, minging mare, two mare. In a pinzu that jigilia, robber of the Kuzu to lose, then as you can, digita pentordi on the yard. And the radio Kuzulia G needs you to chumbo mina. Tabena Umadi and Anasi, or needs you. 아주 둘러 망보지 계급 신나라 쏘고 균젠디 엔 계급 디주 나로래야 지 내가 랭게 디주로 라저 용어예요 봐. 나 진짜 균젠 나서 망보지 온디야. 라저 용어예요 버치. 고줄 차게 셔봐요 봐. 딱 고줄 강해요 버치. 고줄 강해야 돼. 아주 디기술 차지. 나 들으시 온디가 알아. 제가 니들이야. 땅 아주 저 신기 진 갱 쿨고 하는지. 버지 차대가 알아서 정도.
So it's like it's like an internet password. The compassion is like no, it's like a
hotspot.
Oh, excuse me. He said it's hotspot. I heard a password. I'm sorry. It's like a hotspot, an internet hotspot. Or compassion is like the internet, the internal network, and so. We can see that we're actually connected to everything. And so it's really, as I was just saying, in actuality, self and others, there's really no difference between them. Ourselves are a part of others. Others are a part of ourselves. Others' happiness becomes, therefore, part of our own happiness, and our own happiness becomes a part of others' happiness. And so there's this relation or this connection between the two, and because of that, we need to take responsibility. We need to bear the responsibility. It's like with the clothes that we wear. With the clothes that we wear, usually here in European countries, the clothes are not sewn here in Europe, they're sewn elsewhere in other countries. We don't see the seamstresses and tailors. We don't see them, we don't know them, we wouldn't recognize them, we don't know their names. But even though we don't see them, they sew the clothes, and then we wear the clothes, and there's a benefit that occurs to them. And so, one reason why we do this is because the labor costs there are much lower. They have lower wages. They have fewer facilities and they have a lot of difficulties, and they have lower wages. So, because in this way, the difficulties that they undergo then become a part of our own happiness. And so, this is a situation where we need to take responsibility.
제상 아주에게 은 가수라다지 핀수지질이야 제바 용구여버디 하고 같이지 드리지지지질에 삼시치야데 계시면시 차려야래 그래서나 수수 다다파 삼시 맞지야나 안 니마지리 소소 강에 태베 걸이야 미신다 수 삼시치야 걸어하고 드링도 소소 처음에 개경으로 라지 도수용디야래 제자 디균전 때네 따지 happiness 오나 따지 오늘 대화용 알이야 에는 아주 진짜 기가로에 장지부 대화돼야 삼노 디다 눈주인데 그렇지 그 장지부 대화사지 아 매대지 신 대화 매비나 장지부 대화사지 뭐 인지도라 요 매대지 좀 샤려래 드림이 인주산에 디균선 때네 지딘 대화 진입아 디그 신데 되려 총스 소대한테 내가로디 셰브체제 아주지 참니지 삼바디 야기야 공부 동아데 개점을 삼정.
So once we understand the connections that there are among all of us, the mutual connections, then it is important for us to treasure each other. And the reason for this is that if we don't cherish others, if we don't think well of others, and then one day when we encounter difficulties ourselves, there'll be no one to treasure or cherish ourselves. And so for that reason, our happiness and the happiness in the world comes not from wanting from happiness for ourselves. To think that we can only have happiness for ourselves alone is mistaken. Our happiness is not ours alone. Our happiness actually comes from others being happy. So when others are happy, then we are happy. And this is the way it naturally things are. And so this is why it is said that all of the happiness in the world arises from wishing to bring benefit to others. And so for these reasons, I think that it is important for us to increase our loving kindness and compassion.
다른 거랑 좀 처음이냐 다 로드윈에 가마비 가르라다 sen 토체 다들 충분해 참sam만 안에 강엔 가르쳤다 지당기 ordinary boy 되네 다 엄마 아버가 가려고 그래 제가 ordinary 아버가 되니 이해서 삼다는 되게 매배서지 아직 까마바지 삼동게 양 까마바 인슬라 두사나 900-year-old soul 두사 scary in the 집에 신나 자오르지 그냥 아주 디 참참 무비다 게임들은 dark souls and that dinner cannot have a tongue. Said some confused channel, Susu Kari mean the Hagua meeting. Jezan that Susu Jezan Tuju Mangochilia, that Zuzu Dadabaduchi, Susu Kibuchar, Gavachar, Mashur Daji, Mishandalia, Susungene, Pendor Chung. And then I did it just somebody would cha. Did the child Susu in a regime copy on the average. Mother Susu Gergin when it on it. 기본 도 가본 도스라나 제 라투야 메데 스카라산다 초진 수수 가리 메데 confusing 차 디토리아다 간다지 지단기 수수 게르다 라완다지 다나 신기 다지 freedom 다 라완다 다나 신기 가르쳐지 수수 게르게 초와르 시라 메비 인두산 수수 게르 happiness 야르데 시라 feeling cha meeting energy that is paji de source tristo adrin me indusane ti junzel dene ngaran tadabado ji 가수라다 갈라간sam으로 지 무투이네 안 로자 데 템포로 체네 다 무투이네 지 자와르 겹친 로투야르데 조다 신 심젠리아 대화주세로 준도버치 디토하는 지 수술이야 지 셈리아 데스 가와다 구와르 충미미자 디교zel 된다 데스지 닝도로 지게아르지 용데도 섬도스 정도
To take myself as an example, from at the age of 7, I was given the title of Karmapa, and this has sometimes given me difficulties because there was the ordinary boy, the ordinary boy Apogaba, and if I think of myself as Apogaga, then it seems difficult. But if I think of myself as the Karmapa, then I'm like this 900-year-old soul, this 900-year-old being. It's like in the movies and the games, you say there's the dark souls, the dark side, and it gets to be a very difficult and confusing situation to know what I am or who I am. And so up till now, on many occasions, really what has helped me find happiness is on the occasions when I've been able to actually do something small to actually benefit someone else. That's where I've been able to get some satisfaction or for some joy for myself. Otherwise, if I try to think of myself as some independent, some
normal.
As a normal person, it'd be difficult to say. If I were to think of myself as a normal person, then it would be difficult to say that I could ever find such happiness. And so one aspect of this is what I've been saying, that if I were to think of myself as being some sort of independent, in control person, so if I were to think of myself as being some independent person in control with freedom, I don't have such thoughts, and because I don't think of myself in that way, I'm able to find a little bit of satisfaction. And so now that I've reached a certain age, I feel like I want to be able to continue this, and if I can continue in some way to be able to bring some little bit of happiness to other sentient beings, then I feel like this is something that will bring joy and satisfaction to myself and my mind, and this thought gives me courage.
You have some questions? There is question? Thank you so much, Angela. 디 저하디 가장데 드달레르 다디 저하디 지켄자도 아니 아부쿠도스 니 아부쿠도스 니람 당멘도스 니람 당멘도스 아니 니 세세두스다나 베셈 지 데바담 가완로 용도스 테네두스 디 녜셰데아기 지 가르에 semgi 가르에 다지 디기사로다 sem기다 가와사로 녜셰데아 딘디 디레베스 나는 대마인 바 결혼셰데아디 디디 다지 어르다 니세요 베 sem기보로 sem가와 용도 디디 녜셰데아 디기디레베스 니 아부고도스 미남 당가면도스 야야 네네네 네 French girl 마다 French girl 노티가 오네
Ok.
다 된다 도도도 교시 때만 되고만다
The questioner says, I sleep well and don't have any dreams, and when I wake up, it's very peaceful and happy, beautiful. Is this the same happiness? Is this the happiness that His Holiness is talking about?
Maybe, hopefully. I'm not. Looks the same.
Here is another question. Do all sentient beings have a past connection with the Karmapa?
All sentient beings. 딱 까마봐 군진 다다바도지 군진 주로 봐도 총요하래. 다 초지네 까마 군진 주로 봐도 총요한데 다 초진데 성 초지네 미직 임배소지. 다 미직 섬다고 겨와야네 안 랜데베 소지. 다 초지네 야 미주루도 임배소지. 다 가는 수수수에게 자바틀에 강든지 체연주산 미주루 예배소지. 다 간다든지 체연주산에 너나 지당다 지 까마버 제산 지 상월래야 퍼지 잡아도 유기를 삼창도스 다 이게 비내야지 타 니징로 아 진짜 퍼지 유기를 진짜 봐 치종으로 타 니징로 좀세 다 니징사데 지 까마바 코랑은 타 니징사 매비네 다지 심제 신기 제바 토당 토안에 지 단일이로든데 바지 용구 유기를 삼 정도스
So up until the present, there have been 16 Karmapas. And so when we look at the 16 Karmapas, and one way of looking at it, like it's like one person who has taken birth many times. Another way that we can look at it, these 16 Karmapas are all individual people who have had their own individual ways of maintaining their activities and deeds. In general, all sentient beings do have a connection with the Karmapa, but there's a question of the distance in the connection. That distance in the connection comes in terms of not from the perspective of the Karmapa, but in terms of the different ways that the sentient beings have made the connections with the Karmapa.
단도에
This question is, how does one maintain one's awareness at the time of death?
다니 간주에 다다네 고 종다치하고데 개심을 마도야 선이 시외 겁지 지기 인사나 디 가보시라래 린주산 다다네베 종다치해제 다 조치슈르디 가르쳐라다 수수이 니마지디 미스지기 말없이 들지 삼 땅체 아니 쇼벨은 주산에 에너지 아메 코베나마 기기 위해서 예세나랑 주산 딱 오모만 예주자를 시외 넘버로 체지인데 제제 안 정다를 시들이 체위미나 근데 변화 위기를 삼정은 뒀어
In order to do this, you have to train now. If you don't do any training now, then tomorrow, when it comes to the time when it comes to the point of your death, and you say, "I'm going to maintain awareness," it's difficult. And so the main thing is we need to maintain our training at this point. The main way to do this is to think of a single day as like being an entire lifetime. So in the morning, when you wake up, you think that you're being born from your mother's womb. And then in the evening, when you fall asleep, you think that you are dying. So if you train in this way, I think it will be beneficial.
다 좋아진다. Final question.
The question is, when Your Holiness teaches in the West, do you use the same terms, or do you adapt your teachings for the different culture and of the audience?
I think it's slightly different. Slightly different. Not much difference, but slightly different. Of course, when you're speaking to the Tibetan people, I think it's more easier, because you don't need to think about this translator and sometimes it's in traditional teaching we're using lots of long term quotations, but when we give the teachings for the foreigners, then I can't give much quotations because translator going to have hard time. I think this is just kind of joking. It's slightly different, not much difference, but it's